Hello everyone, I am Aydoğan Vatandaş, the editor-in-chief of Politurco.com. Today I have a very special guest, Mr. Wayne Madsen. He is an investigative journalist, but he also has a different background. He was a former naval intelligence officer, and he also worked in NSA. Thank you so much, Mr. Madsen, for joining us.
Good to be with you.
Wayne, the reason that I want to talk to you is that I remember that you were one of the few who said that the July 16 coup attempt in Turkey might be a self-coup or a false flag coup attempt. So I just want to understand the analogy, the reason that you made that analysis and conclusion. How did that idea come to your mind? What is your analysis?
Well, the first thing, it didn't make a whole lot of sense when it happened. I think a successful coup would have actually overthrown Erdogan had it been a real coup. And why do I say that? Well, look at the past coups in Turkey. They were mostly all successful. When the military would, and even semi-coups like what occurred in 1996, when it was felt that there was a chance that Turkey might move away from secularism, but had the Turkish military been serious, I think they would have been successful in ousting Erdogan and used the Turkish constitution as a reason, saying, well, we are the guardians of the constitution, but none of that happened. And then on the issue of Michael Flynn, who, of course, was a foreign policy advisor to Donald Trump right at that point in time. He was also working closely with Paul Manafort. And we know that Manafort had all these business connections with people close to Erdogan. And at the same time, of course, on the very same day that the coup occurred, Flynn was giving an address, and it's not what he said, it's what he didn't say during the address. He said, there's a coup going on, and he sort of indicated, well, this is the Turkish military, and I have it on good authority that the coup plotters will remain with NATO, and he made some other mention. Now, I don't think General Flynn is the sharpest general that's ever been in the U.S. Armed Forces, but he does know one thing, and he headed up the Defense Intelligence Agency until President Obama got rid of him, basically for insubordination. But one of the things that the Defense Intelligence Agency specializes in is military deception. So he, excuse me, Flynn knows how to basically put out disinformation to achieve some end result. And I think his comments, which didn't go into a lot of detail, were a form of military deception. That's even called MILDEC in the Defense Intelligence Agency and in the Pentagon, standing for military deception.
And it is so interesting that you just referred to his speech during the coup day in Turkey. He was praising the coup. So he was praising the coup. And what is so interesting, I think you are the only one who provides that evidence, because you said that General Mike Flynn General Mike Flynn's team reached you in April, 6 months before the coup attempt. So we know that from the Mueller investigation, we know that General Mike Flynn and his partner Bijan Kwan were indicted to conspire against the United States government and working on and spying for the Turkish government to extradite Mr. Fethullah Gülen. So, but the problem in that scenario is that you provide us a new information. You're saying that General Mike Flynn and his team actually started to work for the Turkish government at least in April. But General Mike Flynn is giving a speech during exactly the same day in July 16, coup attempt day, and he is praising the coup which was against Erdogan, which was supposed to be against Erdogan. So there is a contradiction here. So we understand from your analysis that even that particular speech might be as part of that conspiracy or false flag coup operation. Did I understand correctly? Is that what you are trying to say, sir?
And that would be part of military deception doctrine. That's what Flynn, during his career, would have specialized in, especially when he was at the Defense Intelligence Agency. Make it appear that he's promoting the coup, but essentially he was serving as another piece of what I call fly paper. You know, fly paper, you hang it up and it's got sticky stuff on it and it's got some scent that people, you know, so essentially like flies going and then they get stuck. Mm-hmm. His putting out the information saying, look, this coup is really good for NATO and other things.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That may have sent a signal to those who may have not even been committal as favoring the coup to say, oh, well, look, you know, guys like Flynn, and he's close to Donald Trump, he's promoting the coup, so why shouldn't we? Mm-hmm. And that would be a typical military deception operation.
Mm-hmm. Wayne, can you please tell us how the Flynn team approached you in April? How did they reach you? What did they want from you?
Well, I had known a guy who had been circulating in the intelligence world in Washington for a number of years, and he would occasionally offer up some source for me to interview, and sometimes the source panned out, sometimes it didn't. I suspect the person was probably working, I'm not going to say he was working with the CIA, but there are people that work, you know, travel in those circles. And so this individual approached me and said, look, we really need your help. I'm involved in a project, or we're involved in a project. He specifically mentioned that he had just had a meeting with General Flynn. Mm-hmm. And he said, we'd like to get you on our team because there's people that really want to use your expertise. Mm-hmm. And look, I never advertised myself as an expert in Turkish affairs. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of what's going on, but I don't speak the language. So I thought that was unusual. And then there was like, can you make it to Washington from Florida? And I said, well, I have no plans to travel to Washington. And I kind of left it at that. And I may have gotten a few more emails inquiring as to whether I was going to be in Washington, but I got the impression that this was like some time-sensitive project that was going on.
When did it happen, Wayne? It was in April 2016?
Yeah. April 2016.
And you also have evidences of text messages, is that correct? With this guy?
These were these were mostly phone calls.
Phone calls.
Nothing really committed on, you know, in print, because obviously he knew he didn't want any paper trails. So
has this person ever been indicted or prosecuted by the prosecutors? Do you know anything about that?
No. I do know that he ran afoul of some Virginia law in the past, and but I think he got out of. It was I think charges that he was defrauding some business partners, and
but
you know, with those kind of CIA connections, they're easily.
But are you? I mean, are you saying that he was also questioned or was asked some questions by the federal authorities?
No, this was even before all this happened.
Oh, okay.
He had run afoul of Virginia authorities.
Oh, got it.
on some business.
I got it.
Fraud. Yeah.
Okay, so Wayne, I'm going to show this speech, General Mike Flynn speech, to our audience, and we can just talk about it.
Turkey right now, there's a coup. Yeah, and I was just literally going back and forth with a very great friend of mine who trained with us in the Turkish military. And the Turkish military is now, I don't know whether they're going to succeed or not, but the Turkish military, anybody that's switched on and paying attention, they have been just excised for many years by what really became a secular country, meaning a sort of a regular sort of nation state, and they began to move towards Islamism. This is Turkey under Erdogan, who is actually very close to President Obama. So I'm going to be very fascinated to see what happens, because if the military succeeds, and one of the things that came out of the military tonight, they're about +8 hours from here, so it's probably around, I don't know, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning there. One of the things that the military immediately said is, we recognize our responsibilities with NATO, we recognize our responsibilities with the United Nations. We want to make sure that the world knows we want to be seen as a secular nation. This is the military. So, yeah, and this is the military. So, yeah, and that is what happened.
I want to add one more thing, Wayne. So when I looked at the indictment against Bijan Khan and Ekim Alptekin, these are the persons who were involved in that conspiracy against the United States government and efforts to extradite Mr. Gülen without being registered in FARA Act. So in the indictment, it's obvious that it is said that Turkish government started to work to extradite Gülen in early 2016. So they increased their efforts in 2016, months before the military coup attempt. So they were getting prepared to extradite Mr. Gülen after the coup attempt, and also to spy on the Turkish dissidents in the United States. And the information that you provide us actually is matching with that information that we see in the indictment. So what else can you tell us about General Mike Flynn's speech and their efforts to work for the Turkish government?
Well, we know one of the reasons Flynn got in trouble too is because he failed to register as under the Foreign Agents Registration Act. He had a few companies headquartered in Alexandria, Virginia, and that brings up another issue. The person who approached me about this Turkey project was largely based in Alexandria, Virginia. Mm-hmm. Okay, so a lot of people are. It's a major suburb of Washington, but I've always found that the companies and business people that have operations in Alexandria are normally associated with what they call the spook world, intelligence-related things, and so Flynn, we know that he was even cooperating with Paul Manafort, who also was indicted for failure to register as a foreign agent. And so this law was passed because the government wants to know who's representing whom based on, their lobbying activities in Washington. But I do know that there was one meeting I read about that where James Woolsey, the former CIA director, was in attendance, and there was discussions about kidnapping Fethullah Gulen and even like a black bag operative, put a bag over his head and exfiltrate him out of the country quickly to Turkey. And when Woolsey heard that, he said, "Hey, you're talking about illegal activity here. I'm out of this meeting." According to him, he left the meeting and we're told he had nothing more to do with that part of what they were discussing. Now, whether that was the project that I was approached about, I'm not certain. But it might have been a lower level meeting, because obviously if you're going to get somebody like Woolsey in attendance, you're talking high level stuff. And especially if it was Woolsey and Flynn. But I do know that the person that brought up this Turkish project to me told me that he had just met with General Flynn. And I don't know whether that was to get me all excited about it or not.
Right.
I had no interest in General Flynn or Donald Trump, for that matter. At that point in time, I knew that that whole operation, the Trump campaign. Not that I'm saying that Hillary Clinton was, light years better, but I knew that Trump was bad news, because we now know that the Trump organization itself has just been indicted in New York as a criminal syndicate. So,
what kind of military and intelligence expertise do you have? Can you please tell us a little bit about this?
Well, I was in the Navy during the Cold War and involved in anti-submarine warfare, and then I was assigned to the National Security Agency, where I was involved in communication security issues. While I was in the Navy, I also dealt with physical security of our military, some of our military bases around the world. So that included counterterrorism issues and whatnot.
Wayne, thank you so much for this very special and interesting conversation. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.